Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be here today to represent Raindance Film Festival. We are the biggest independent film festival in Europe, and I'm the VR curator. And for the very first time this year, we have had our virtual reality awards, where we awarded exceptional and pioneering virtual reality experiences and exceptional independent talent. And we have given out awards in 10 different categories, all the way from interactive narratives to cinematic, social impact, animation, and even sensual VR experiences. And I'm super excited to be here today with 3 of our nominees, Antoine, Rafael, and Hadrien. Their work was in our selection in different categories. So I'd like to, guys, ask you to individually introduce yourselves and also tell a little bit about your background, your studio, what you've been working on. And equally, all of you come from more of a traditional filmmaking background, so you're storytellers. So why have you chosen VR as a new creative medium, and what kind of prompted you to start in this very, very new field? So Antoine?
So hello, I'm Antoine. I co-founded a VR company called Okio Studio 4 years ago, and we did a lot of commercial and 2 short movies, one called I, Philip, the other called Alteration. I just sold this company to a commercial group, and I just co-founded a new company also focused on virtual reality and augmented reality called Atlas 5, and this one will be more focused on narrative and storytelling, so doing documentary and fiction in all animation and live action. So that will be the new job I'll have at Atlas 5, is doing a producer on narrative content. And then the good question of why choosing VR, because of course 4 years ago, none of us was doing VR, so at the moment you have to make a choice, like I have to quit my old job to do this thing. And personally, why did I choose VR is because VR is something that creates new emotion that the other form of arts can create. And it's not even a debate, it's something that it's really, there is scientific study on that. And virtual reality triggers some parts of the brain that are not triggered by movie, literature, or music. It's what we call the lower brain, the lower phase of the brain, the reptilian brain. So when I discovered that this medium could trigger new emotion on a spectator, that was the moment when I decided to go into that field and try to understand how to trigger that emotion and understand how to make someone live a story. So that's fun.
Excellent. So Rafa?
Hello, I'm Rafael Pavon. I'm creative director of Feature Lighthouse. We're also a studio, a VR studio with 2 years. We're based in LA and Madrid. And we're focused on creating memorable content and narrative driven content. We've just spent 2 years creating our own content. One is Melita that we released 2 weeks ago, and is for a surprise, and also it's like the reaction has been incredible. And we're releasing Ray also that I directed, and we have like 4 more pieces that we are about to release, so we're super excited. And the reason like why we do VR, it's a bit controversial because on one hand we believe that good stories are told in great ways in any medium. I don't know how many of you know that Peter Pan was a play, but I don't know how many of you have seen the play. Actually, most of us have read the books, which is an adaptation. We've seen the films in like animation, live action. So the story is still there, and the interpretations are very rich in all the medium. But VR, and we're discovering that. So it's a complicated question to answer because it's a process that we're going through now. It has some specifics that involve the immersion and the presence. And I know those words sound a bit like cliches, but it's really difficult to explain it in other ways. And the curiosity of exploring the world, which no other medium has. And I think that's what we use to create these stories, is that we create a world. And there's one story happening in that world, But you can follow, you can just immerse yourself in that world in lots of different ways.
Adrien?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Hadrien Lanvin, and I'm the CEO of a company called Innerspace. We do interactive animation and games. We're based in Paris and Los Angeles. We've released titles from day one on the Gear VR, from day one on the HTC Vive, from day one on the Oculus Touch. We only do VR. That's all that the company has ever done, and that's what we want to continue on doing. The reason, I mean, what sparked the VR enthusiasm for me is twofold. The first side is, as you said, Maria. I have a background as an entrepreneur in filmmaking, which is a very mature industries where opportunities are probably much scarcer than in VR. Whereas VR, seemed 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, completely, an evergreen field of amazing opportunities. So that's the first thing. The second one is. In terms of, again, we mentioned emotion, we mentioned the reaction of the audience and the reaction that we've all had personally when we first tried VR. That is something that I hadn't experienced in any other form of medium before that. And putting the audience first is extremely important to us, and the many opportunities to trigger, again, new emotions and tremendous reactions with this new medium is exactly what is compelling to me as a creator for this medium.
Okay, so for the purpose of this panel, I have asked the speakers individually to pick a clip that really represents their work really well, but also what makes VR different to kind of traditional storytelling mediums, and how it represents going from storytelling to more of a story living and world building. So let's play the first clip by Antoine's company called iPhilip.
Phil, can I ask you a question? Do you dream?
What does it feel like to be a robot?
Can you tell me your name?
Everything's gonna be fine.
My name is Philip, but everybody calls me Phil.
Actually, one thing I'm just realizing that playing you a 360 experience on a two-dimensional screen, it doesn't really do justice to this experience. So Antoine, can you explain us a little bit more what's happening there? How have you guys constructed the narrative, and how do you make people feel? What's happening?
Of course. I choose to show this video clip, which is from my first movie we did 3 years ago. And even if I think the second one go more deeper on the narration, I think I choose this extract because this movie answers well the question, why VR? So I'll try to be brief to leave time for everyone. So I'll tell you the story in really 30 seconds, then you understand why VR on this story. So it's inspired by a true events. So Philip K. Dick is a science fiction writer. Most of you might know it. He died in 1982. And in 2005, some engineers at Hanson Robotics create one of the first IA, and they decided to create it based on the memory and the books of Philip K. Dick, the science fiction writer. So they built the IA, and they built also the face, the robotic face. So then you can talk to Philip K. Dick 23 years after he's dead. So you get video on the web of this story, it really happened. And so at that moment, a director called Richard Linklater was releasing a movie adapted from a Philip K. Dick books. So he called the engineer saying, like, can I do the press junket with your robots? It will be really more fun than if I do it myself. So the engineer said, yes, of course, we will give you the head and you will bring it on many states to make interview everywhere. And at some point, they arrived to Las Vegas, and someone stole the head of the android of Philip K. Dick. So that's a real story that really happened. Nobody knows where is the head of the android of Philip K. Dick. So that's the plot, that's the true event. So why I choose this clip is because when we heard this true event 10 years ago with my partner, at that time we were not doing virtual reality, like nobody was doing virtual reality, except scientists. So we decided to adapt it in a feature film. So rewrite a script for 1 year and a half. And after the script was finished, we decided to drop the idea of making the movie because for us the script was not good. And the reason it was not good is because you will have for 1 hour and 45 minutes a hero that will be a head of a robot with cable everywhere. And we felt like it won't interest nobody to see a robotic head being a hero for 1 hour and 45 minutes. And the main thing of the movie was to explain to people what is the feeling that a robot could experience. So, and for us, the script was not going that way, and you didn't feel that, so we decided to drop the idea of making this movie. And 6 years after, we discovered virtual reality, and the potential that gives virtual reality, like the famous empathy machine that you may have learned, and all the fact that you can feel more thing and live thing. And we decided to retake that script and that true story and doing it in virtual reality, but this time you will be the head of Philip K. Dick. So you will live what the robot is living. And for us, it was really more compelling and more interesting in doing it that way. So for me, that movie really answered the why VR, because sometimes there is story that may fit better in VR. I think a story can be told in a book, in a poem, in a song, in a movie, in a VR piece, but sometimes she can be a little bit better in VR, and it was for me the case of this story.
Your work's actually also touring a lot of film festivals, so the next experience you guys created was Alteration, which actually won the Best Cinematic Narrative VR Experience at Raindance Film Festival and many, many, many others. So what's this kind of theme going on with artificial intelligence in your VR experiences? Is that something that kind of interests you? Or?
I think it's just because me and my partner were big science fiction geek.
Okay.
So we do what we like to do, and we like science fiction. So
Awesome. And congratulations on launching Atlas 5. I'm super excited to see what you guys will be working on next. So next up, we have Rafael, and Rafael has chosen a clip of an experience called Ray. Ray was actually nominated in Best Interactive Narrative VR Experience at Raindance Film Festival. So let's play the clip.
Okay, it keeps going.
So Rafael, what I personally find really captivating about this experience, well, there's like at least 3 things. The fact that it was shot on Nokia Ozo, so it's like a 360 film. And then you have these CG elements, which is Ray the light. Also Lucy, the character, played by a very cute Spanish actress. She actually appeared in a Tame Impala video, which was amazing. And then equally, first time I saw this experience, I instantly fell in love with it, also because of its sound design and the music composition, and the totality of this experience is just beautiful. So tell us a bit more, how did you guys started this experience? What inspired the creation, and what were your learnings when creating Ray?
Well, Well, first of all, I have to say that last night we were having a chat, and we had this challenge to give this talk without saying the word empathy. And he lost, so he's going to pay for the drinks tonight. And then, well, talking about Ray, I chose these 3 clips from Ray, which is a really short experience that we started as almost as a prototype that if it succeeded, it will work as a piece in itself. So we were exploring and we were testing the medium and seeing and adding stuff and seeing how it would work without any immediate idea in mind. It all started as a film that I did almost 10 years ago at university, but at that time it was lacking something I didn't know. It was okay for experimenting with video. And then 2 years ago, when I first tried VR, I suddenly thought that the fact that you could put a whole world, a whole atmosphere around a little story could make it so big and amplify it to a point that you're in, we use the word immersion again, to understand that story from a wider point of view. So I chose 3 clips. One of them is about curiosity. The first one, Ray is about a girl who's sleeping, and then a ray of light comes to her room, and they start to get to know each other and to dance, which means that apart from looking at that, you can look at the whole room. And the whole room is designed for you to understand more things about her and the story. But you might get bored. So we put a TV with a short film from 1936. Just in case you were bored of the story, you can just go and watch TV. So there's a whole, inside a really, really simple story, there's a whole world around it that will arouse your curiosity. The other one is the presence. We found out during the process, and now it's almost, again, a cliche, that when someone looks at you, you are grounded on that world. And we did it with the actress. And it worked really well. And the last one was the exploration. We found that in a 360 video, you couldn't interact. So we made the room in a way with using photogrammetry so you can play with Ray and explore it in a different way. So that was it.
Actually, there's also this funny story that you told me during the Raindance Film Festival, because Ray has the watch part, which is just a lean back kind of linear narrative 360 experience, and also the play part. And what's really interesting about play and what's really innovative is that the interaction is actually through voice, which is probably one of the first VR experiences that I have ever experienced where I'm interacting with it using my voice. And you had this funny story about Ray here, Ray go.
Well, we found, well, we have 2 commands for Ray, which is Ray here and Ray go. So the way that we tested if it was working is to play the Fatboy Slim song right here, right now, to see if it worked, and it actually worked really well.
So Hadrien, we will be showing you a clip called The Unfinished Sculpture, which was nominated in the Best Mobile Interactive Narrative Experience at Raindance. It's going to soon come out on Oculus, Rift, so both on Rift and Gear VR. And after that, if you could summarize what's really interesting about it, it's a CG experience, and also the interaction model and what you have learned.
Yeah, so just a little bit of background before we start the clip. So this is a clip from an experience which hasn't been released yet, which is coming pretty soon. It's part of our Firebird series, which is essentially Fantasia for VR. So it's classical music, it's a simple story, it's hopefully great visuals, and it's casual interactions. The clip, the experience, The Unfinished, I'm going to put it very, in very brief form. You're in the museum at night, sun sets, and magically the statues around you come alive. What I wanted to show in this clip, and something that you will see, is that as important as the story and everything that is within the story is important in storytelling in general, but in VR even more so, is everything that is not specifically relevant to the story. Everything that is actually closer to world building. So maybe you can launch the video right now. Hopefully, yes. All right, so this is the set that we designed, early concept arts. This is what you see as a user in the experience. This is the museum that you are in. These are the statues that are going to come alive, and we wanted to give the user something to be excited about in a childlike way, because that's something that is extremely important in the VR and something that you can do. And we did something very simple, which was put rain on top of the scene, and here's the reaction.
Oh, it's raining. Oh, that's really nice.
Oh, it's raining! Oh, this music's beautiful! Whoa! So, oh, rain. Love rain. Oh, wow. That is cool. Something about rain.
All right, so what you just saw were 3 grown men mesmerized by rain, essentially. The point where I'm getting at is that one of the things that, again, getting back to what I was saying earlier, what excites me a lot about VR is that as soon as you put on the headset and as soon as you start experimenting with it, both as a creator and as a user, you're like a baby, you know, rediscovering your own hands and the world around you. And that is extremely, extremely powerful in terms of what you can do. Specifically for the world building part, this is something that we spent a lot of time on, story set aside. It means, you know, allocating resources, making trade-offs, you know, in technical terms of is the rain killing the performance of the VR device when you play it, and do we have to scrap it or not? But it's extremely, extremely important. And not only, in my opinion, in VR storytelling, but in everything VR, where it's actually part of both the storytelling side, but also the UX. And this is, you know, a skill that is going to be more and more important to develop if you work in entertainment, in storytelling, in games, but also in B2B applications, which is being able to create worlds and interfaces which makes the best of all the tiny little details that are not necessarily extremely important in our daily lives, but that take, you know, a huge importance when you're in the VR world.
Excellent. So we're kind of at the end of our time. If you guys were to give one piece of advice to people who are aspiring VR content creators, what would that be? And especially people who may come kind of like from film background like yourselves. Antoine?
So I will give an advice for the people who want to do live action virtual reality, which means with real actors and real camera. When you will do your preparation and your research, you will see the big debate, like, is it better to do a monoscopic or a stereoscopic movie? Stereoscopic meaning the 3D, because when you do a stereoscopic movie, you lower the resolution a little bit. So my advice will be, never begin a monoscopic VR movie today. It's too late. If you did that 3 years ago, it was okay, but my personal advice will be, do a stereoscopic movie, because in virtual reality, you get the word reality, and in the reality, we see everything in 3D. Everything is in stereoscopic. So if you want to immerse someone in a VR movie, do it stereoscopic, and don't listen to this debate about monoscoping is a better resolution, and that will be my personal advice.
Mine would be to have no mercy with making people experience and feel something really strong.
And mine, very briefly, if you come from the storytelling and filmmaking environment, get to know the people from the video game industry, because those are the ones that are going to help you make interactive experiences. It is going to be a culture clash, but it's going to be a fruitful one.
And my experience would be fearless and just experiment. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.